Paris, the French capital, once again positioned at the heart of a debate that has defined Middle Eastern diplomacy for decades. In an exclusive interview with Israel's Channel 12, French President Emmanuel Macron took a bold step, openly defending France's recognition of a Palestinian state. For Macron, the move is not merely symbolic. He insists it is the most effective tool available to weaken extremist groups and revive the long-stalled two-state solution. With carefully chosen words, he framed recognition not as a challenge to Israel, but as a way to isolate Hamas and preserve the hope of peace. In his own words, Macron declared, "First, the recognition of a Palestinian state is the best way to isolate Hamas." This assertion underlined his position that legitimacy must be given to moderate actors and political institutions, rather than to those who thrive on violence and rejectionism. Macron's voice carried a deliberate weight, as if speaking not just to Israeli audiences, but to the wider international community watching closely. The French president then turned to one of the most contentious issues on the ground, the expansion of Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank. With directness unusual in such interviews, Macron condemned the policy as both morally unjust and politically reckless. He said, "It's both unfair and irresponsible." Unfair because West Bank has nothing to do with Hamas. And when people start saying our answer either to the recognition or to the situation will be to restart settlements in West Bank, this is the best evidence of the fact that this is a political project whose objective is not to dismantle Hamas, but to kill the possibility of the two states and to deny the right of Palestinian people to live in peace in the region. This statement was striking not only for its clarity, but also for its timing. Macron knows that each new settlement built across the West Bank undermines the feasibility of a Palestinian state. His warning was aimed at Israeli policymakers, but also directed at the broader international audience, signalling that France would not quietly accept policies that make a two-state solution impossible. The interview also revealed Macron's insistence on keeping diplomatic channels open. Rather than lecturing from afar, he emphasized his willingness to engage directly with Israeli leadership. He explained, "I offered to come to have a full-fledged discussion because I thought it was more respectful and productive, and I'm always available to go into details and try to engage in all these different aspects. This is it. But I have respect for your country, your people, and I want to work with your Prime Minister, his government, and your President." Here, Macron positioned himself as both a critic and a partner, someone who will defend Palestinian rights, but also safeguard cooperation with Israel. His language balanced firmness with respect, suggesting that France sees its role not as an adversary, but as a mediator capable of speaking to both sides. Beyond the quotes, the context matters. France's recognition of a Palestinian state is not happening in isolation. Across Europe, governments are grappling with how to respond to the ongoing violence, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and the political stalemate that has defined Israeli-Palestinian relations for more than a decade. Macron's step signals a willingness to break from hesitation and to act decisively, even if it draws criticism. His calculation seems clear. Recognition offers a non-violent diplomatic tool to counter Hamas by empowering Palestinian institutions and keeping alive the prospect of a negotiated settlement. For Israel, the timing is deeply sensitive. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government remains firm in its opposition to unilateral recognition, arguing that it rewards Palestinian leadership without guaranteeing Israel's security. Macron's words, broadcast to an Israeli audience, were therefore not only diplomatic but also confrontational, pressing Israelis to see recognition as a safeguard against extremism rather than as a threat. The political stakes are high. Domestically, Macron faces scrutiny over whether France should wade so assertively into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Internationally, his message resonates with European allies who are weary of endless violence and searching for new strategies. Looking ahead, Macron's words may set a precedent. If other European states follow France's lead, Hamas could find itself more politically marginalized, while Palestinian institutions gain legitimacy. Yet the opposite is also possible. Israel could harden its stance, expand settlements, and deepen divisions. Macron's gamble lies in the hope that recognition will tilt the balance toward moderation rather than extremism. In Paris, the symbolism of the announcement was not lost. France, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council and a country with historic ties to both Israel and the Arab world, has positioned itself as a diplomatic bridge. Macron's interview, carried by Israeli media, was designed to send a signal that France is ready to take risks to preserve the two-state idea. It is a message that will be debated in capitals from Washington to Ramallah, from Brussels to Riyadh. The question now is whether Macron's bold rhetoric can translate into tangible change. His insistence on dialogue with Netanyahu suggests he believes progress is still possible, despite political headwinds. For Palestinians, France's recognition is a symbolic victory, affirming their right to statehood at a moment when despair runs deep. For Israelis, it raises uncomfortable questions about whether continued settlement expansion undermines the very security it claims to protect. For the broader international community, Macron's words inject urgency into a conflict that too often fades from the headlines until violence erupts again. As the French president made clear, recognition is not an end, but a beginning, an attempt to shift the dynamics and isolate extremists by strengthening political pathways. His interview laid bare the tension between principle and pragmatism, between respect for Israel's sovereignty and insistence on Palestinian rights. Whether it succeeds in reshaping the debate remains to be seen, but it marks a defining moment in France's foreign policy under Emmanuel Macron.
The recognition of a Palestinian state is the best way to isolate Hamas.
By the way,
it's both unfair and irresponsible. Unfair because West Bank has nothing to deal with Hamas. And when people start saying our answer either to the recognition or to the situation will be to restart settlements in West Bank, this is the best evidence of the fact that this is a political project whose objective is not to dismantle Hamas, but to kill the possibility of a two states and to deny the right of Palestinian people to live in peace in the region. I offered to come to have a full-fledged discussion because I thought it was more respectful and productive. And I'm always available to go into the details and try to engage in all these different aspects. This is it. But I have a respect for your country, your people, and I want to work with your Prime Minister, his government, and your President.
Yes.